Only I can hear her cries. Today afternoon, I came home from school to find the corridor leading to my apartment unit littered with cardboard boxes. Isn't this a fire hazard? I muttered as I sidestepped them and reached my unit. Dad and Mom were both working, so there was only my older sister inside when I opened the door. "You're back," she muttered as she lazed on the sofa watching TikTok on her phone. Ever since her university implemented online learning, she had been rotting at home 24/7 like a zombie. "What's up with those boxes outside?" "Boxes?" She glanced at the open door and shrugged. "Probably from our new neighbors." "We have new neighbors?" "Yeah, they moved in next door." She nodded her head towards the wall separating our unit and the adjacent unit. "A single father and daughter, if I remember correctly." "Why didn't I hear about this?" I asked, confused. "Oh, the father came over to say hello after you left for school." She paused to let out an unceremonious yawn. "He's a pretty cool dude. Gave us a cake as a gift. No more leftovers, though." "Huh. Oh, talking about the cake." My sister got up and sauntered to the kitchen. She came back with a box of biscuits and passed it to me. "Mom said that we should give something back in return, so can you go over to next door and give them this?" "Do it yourself." "Hell no." She curled up on the sofa like an oversized cat and pretended to snore. "Turn on the aircon too. Thanks." "You..." I let out a sigh of resignation. School had already drained most of my energy, so I'd rather not argue with her. "You owe me one." "I don't owe shit," was her reply as I slammed the door shut behind me. With the box of biscuits in my hands, I navigated my way down the cramped corridor to Unit 13-3. The window louvres were all closed, and there weren't any sounds coming from inside, so I doubted anyone was home. Still, I went ahead and knocked on the door. No response. Yeah, that was stupid. I turned around and was about to walk away when I heard the click of a lock being turned. The door yawned open, and a girl's face popped out from behind. She looked to be about the same age or slightly younger than me. "You are?" I swallowed my saliva and tried to give a polite smile. "Hi, I'm from 1302, the unit next door. Your father gave us a cake this morning, so..." She stared blankly at me. "Who?" The atmosphere instantly became awkward. Your father?" "I don't have one," she said plainly. "What the hell? Then who are you living with?" "Daddy." She hesitated before adding, "Mommy too, I guess." I tilted my head in bewilderment. "So you have..." She shook her head. "He's not my real father. Guardian? I think that's the word." "Don't you mean stepfather?" She shook her head again. "Mommy isn't my mother, too." "So you're adopted?" I cringed internally when I asked that question. What's that?" The more this conversation went on, the more brain cells I was losing. So you have two parents, but not parents. Am I getting this right?" The puzzlement in her eyes betrayed what she said. "I thought you only had a father. A guardian." "Oh, that's because Mommy doesn't come out of the house. So only Daddy is meeting with the neighbors." "Maybe that's why you thought so." "Ah." My gaze shifted to the box of biscuits in my hands. "Anyway, this is for you." "I see." She opened the door a bit more so that she could step through the gap. As her body came into view, I let out an involuntary gasp of shock. What happened to your arms?" I mumbled as I stared at the jagged, deep gashes that marred her fair skin. The wounds were still pretty fresh, judging by how red and angry they looked. She looked down, and upon seeing her injuries, she shrugged nonchalantly. "Daddy said I should wear a long-sleeve jacket if I meet the others, but since he's not here now, I don't really care." That's not the..." "Wait." Her eyes widened. "You can see them?" "See the gashes?" I grimaced. It's really hard not to notice them. She didn't seem to mind my reaction. Did you eat Daddy's cake? Puzzled by the sudden change in her behavior, I shook my head hesitantly. No wonder, she let out a grim smile. If you can, don't ever touch that cake. What's wrong with the cake? She nodded her head towards the cardboard boxes. Daddy buys a lot of that and puts them in each cake he gives. It's tasteless, but it messes with you if you eat it. She opened her mouth to say something else, but panic suddenly flashed in her eyes and she slammed the door shut. Hey, wait! I heard the sound of footsteps behind me and spun around immediately. A tall man in his mid-30s appeared at the entrance of the corridor, whistling as he strolled towards me. He wore a wide-brimmed hat that covered his face and a pair of dark sunglasses completely obscuring his eyes. A chill instantly ran up and down my spine, and I felt my mouth go dry. It's hard to describe it in words, but in that moment, I could feel a dangerous aura surrounding him. All of my senses were screaming for me to get the hell away from this stranger. Without a second thought, I hid the box of biscuits behind my back and pretended that I was walking towards my own unit. The cardboard boxes obstructing most of the passageway meant that I was forced to walk mere inches away from the man. As we walked past each other, he grinned at me. I bit my lip so hard to stop myself from shaking. As soon as I reached the front door to my unit, I grabbed the handle and swung it open. Just before the door slammed shut behind me, I caught a glimpse of the mystery man unlocking the front door to Unit 13-3. You forgot to turn on the aircon, my sister said in an annoyed voice. And why are the biscuits still with... Are you sure that only a single father and daughter lives next door? I demanded. That's what the man said. Hell would I know if it's true or not. She yawned loudly. Why do you care anyway? I briefly wondered how she even managed to get a boyfriend with that rude attitude of hers. Then, the cake, I said. Did you feel anything weird when you ate it? Nope. It's just cake. She threw me a questioning look. Is this one of your "the cake is a lie" jokes? Cut it out. It seemed like the conversation was going nowhere, so I left it at that. The rest of the day was uneventful. I tried raising the question again when Dad and Mom returned, but they gave similar responses. It was just a single father and daughter who moved in next door. The cake was delicious. In the dead of night, I was rudely awoken from my slumber by a strange noise. It sounded like a very low-pitched moan, and was so loud the floor and walls were vibrating. In the pitch-black darkness, I couldn't discern where it was coming from at first, but soon I realized it was coming from the direction of the adjacent unit, 13-3. I glanced over to my sister, who was sleeping a few feet away. She was an infamous light sleeper who would yell at me if I ever made too much noise while she was sleeping, and yet she was sleeping like a log despite the deafening noise. Feeling disconcerted, I got up and walked out of the bedroom towards the living room. The noise grew even louder. By the time I was standing in front of the wall separating the two units, I was starting to get a headache from the incessant reverberations. Yet, no one except for me seemed to be bothered by it. The other neighbors' units remained darkened. I was wondering whether I should go outside to see what was going on when all of a sudden, a terrified yelp cut the air like a blade. I winced and covered my ears. "It hurts, Mommy. It hurts." Muffled sobs flooded my ears despite my shaking hands cupping them. "Daddy, stop." A disembodied voice interrupted her whimpers. The rage, the scorn, the malice, the sheer vehemence in the voice made my blood freeze. "Save your tears, bitch." Her painful cries stopped. The voice halted. The reverberations ceased. Everything came to a standstill as I stared nervously at the solid wall in front of me. I didn't even dare to breathe for fear that they might hear me. A man's voice spoke calmly. "Say goodbye to Mommy, Hebe." Footsteps, then ensuing silence. The tension in the air lifted, and I nearly collapsed onto the floor from sheer relief. I somehow crawled back to my bedroom and back onto my bed without anyone stirring. My eyes hurt from the glare of my phone screen, but I needed to type this out before I forget. Something's seriously wrong with the people living in 13-3. And my family, no, everyone in this apartment block, doesn't seem to notice. Only I can hear her cries.